So, welcome everybody. Um, Thanks for your time, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us for this webinar where we introduce the Open Finance PH Hackathon, Race to the Future. So, just to introduce myself, my name is Evan Lance Liliao from the BSP, and we will be running you through um, with the open finance initiatives of the Philippines, the hackathon mechanics, as well as like a short introduction to the API sandbox that we'll be using for this event. Afterwards, we will have a Q&A. So of course, feel free to either raise your hand at the end of the presentation or to just message any of the panelists, and then the questions will be forwarded to us. So yeah, with that, we can probably start the presentation. And with that, we will hand it over to my colleague from the BSP, Mr. Anatoly Gusto.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of BSP, I'm delighted to welcome you to this public webinar for the Open Finance PH Hackathon, hosted by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas in partnership with the International Finance Corporation, or IFC. We're thrilled to have such a distinguished group of attendees as we explore the future of digital finance in the Philippines. We have seen, obviously, that technology has transformed and improved our lives in countless ways, and digital finance is a crucial part of the wave of innovation, shaping how we interact with money and financial services both today and in the future. And in the same light, we see open finance taking place. Uh, Let me tell you about open finance quickly before we go into the details of the hackathon. So open finance, as most of you are aware, is about really a customer permission data sharing model to further empower consumers and businesses alike. It allows banks, financial institutions, and third parties to access customer data to develop financial solutions and offer services tailored to clients' needs. And as illustration, one can think of open finance as a thriving multi-platform transport system. Essentially, think of open finance as a supercharged MRT or LRT. Some of you have probably tried it, including our colleagues from IFC. So it's the for those who are not familiar, that's the Philippines' current rail transit system. So building on that, the open finance is like building an expanded ecosystem, connecting different financial services together. The data pathways or the rails are built with the customer's permission, ensuring safety and proper conduct. So to make the open finance system work in practice, we need to explore and enable new rails of data sharing that are grounded on explicit customer disclosure and consent, prudent technical standards, and proper market conduct. BSP Circular number 1122 sets forth the guidelines for the BSP Open Finance Framework. 5 features of the framework that I'd like to highlight. First, our framework involves a tiered implementation of use cases for covered financial products and services. Second, we have our key pillars on market conduct, customer disclosure and consent, and technical standards, which are fundamental to establishing the ecosystem among participating institutions and service providers. Third, the BSP sees the value of industry empowerment by engaging the private sector in a more proactive role for advisory and governance support through a formalized body. And fourth, we also recognize the need to establish a cooperative mechanism with other financial regulators and other concerned government agencies, recognizing that this involves products and services beyond our regulatory ambit. And lastly, we believe in the value of doing pilot activities. BSP will permit innovations to be deployed and tested in a live environment within specified parameters and timeframes. Since its formal inception in 2021, the BSP's Open Finance Initiative has achieved significant milestones. And some of which are actually shown in front of you. We have adopted the BSP Circular number 1122, which establishes the policy framework. We have also recognized the industry-based transition group, which also helped inform the arrangements, the draft arrangements for our open finance governance and implementation. And third, we have also adopted and revised the BSP Open Finance Roadmap for 2023 and to 2027. And lastly, we also launched the pilot phase in June 2023. Some of these activities are actually mark the commitment of the BSP together with the partners in creating a robust and innovative financial ecosystem that benefits all stakeholders. However, we believe in the saying that we must walk before we can run and be flexible in adjusting to operational realities. So as part of our phased approach to open finance, we have adopted a more feasible timeline for the Philippine open finance journey. As shown in front of you, it's the Open Finance Roadmap 2023 to 2027. This considers the current level of maturity and infrastructure readiness of the Philippine financial sector, requirements for capacity building, and complexities in promoting collaborative engagement. So the next step for our experiential learning is the Open Finance PH Hackathon, which will run from June to August. We are thrilled to have you here today to learn more about this event. And up next, my colleague Evan will introduce the BSP IFC Open Finance Hackathon, followed by our partners from Ozone API who will discuss the model bank and its use for testing open finance. We'll then have a Q&A session to address any questions that you may have. So thank you. Back to you, Evan.
So thank you for that, Sir Jing. So as I'm sure you've heard from Jing, the potential benefits of open finance are quite large, especially in terms of driving financial inclusion, promoting competition, and digitalizing payments. So with that, let me introduce today the Open Finance PH Hackathon. And as previously mentioned, this is organized by the BSP in partnership with the IFC and supported by the government of Japan. So the first things first, why join this event? So we think that for industry participants, joining this event can help you demonstrate you and your institution's technical capabilities and readiness in terms of driving the open finance ecosystem in the Philippines. So we expect your proof of concepts not would help inform not only us as industry regulators, but also other market participants on the possibilities and the potential that open finance brings. Moreover, we think that this event would enable you to gain hands-on experience in developing open finance-enabled applications. And having such an experience may help you upskill yourself as a participant and also better prepare you and your company to adopt and develop for such a system within your company roadmap. And lastly, you can also gain exposure through this event. Other participants and uh, the invited judges, etc., would get to know you more and know your institution's capabilities, and you would essentially be in the radar as one of the most advanced players in the industry. So moving on now to the use cases for the hackathon. The use cases that participants will be building for include next generation financial management through account aggregation. The second one is reducing barriers to MSME lending. And lastly, it's digital payments innovation. So we'll be running through these in quite a bit more detail. And with the first one in particular, so that's next generation financial management. So I'm sure all of you, or not all of you, but most of us have some form of mobile banking account. And I'm also sure that some of us have multiple accounts from one bank, be it multiple savings accounts, deposit accounts, or credit card accounts. Currently, with existing applications available to us, most users can only link their accounts into these apps so long as these accounts are provided by the same company. While it's convenient to manage multiple accounts from one location, you can only do so within a certain company's ecosystem. It's not really possible to do it across multiple financial providers. However, with Open Finance, third parties will be able to access all of these accounts and create their own platform to consolidate all of these to enable financial consumers to have a one-stop shop for managing their finances. So essentially, next generation financial management is just a type of account aggregation where you can have one platform to monitor, track, and manage all of your finances. Open Finance would enable consumers to better understand their existing financial situation when information is presented all in one platform rather than being scattered across various systems. And the consent-driven data sharing mechanism of Open Finance would also enable customers to choose what type of data they can share securely. So these types of services aren't really that prevalent yet here in the Philippines, but there are many third-party services that already do this outside of the country. On the second use case, it's motivated by the importance of MSMEs in the Philippines. Given that majority of the businesses in the Philippines are MSMEs, so that's at around 99.6%, and also that majority of Philippine employment is powered by MSMEs, so that's at around 65%. So their existence and continued growth is vital to the country's growing economy. And one of the main challenges faced by these MSMEs is access to credit. So intrinsically, an MSME's finances are often tied to their personal finances, and given their size, they often face increased scrutiny or lower access to credit within the banking system because they tend to be classified as higher risk. While efforts already do exist to help alleviate these companies are still seen as being of higher risk and more established relative to larger corporations. So how does Open Finance address this? The reason or how Open Finance addresses this is largely through the consent-driven data sharing mechanism, where MSMEs can potentially provide potential creditors or underwriters alternative sources of data to essentially show proof that they have the capability to pay, they are in good financial standing, and that they can pay back whatever debt that they take on. So these alternative sources of information outside the typical set of banking products are still valuable and can be used by underwriters. And this relies on the data sharing aspect of open finance within an open finance ecosystem. So in this ecosystem, customers and business owners can very easily share their data, their business's data, and they can do so securely, and also they can choose whatever data they share. Then lastly, the third use case, I'm sure many of us have already done payments digitally, especially with any kinds of payments initiation. So the increased digitalization of financial services also led to its increased adoption. And many of us already transact and pay for our bills, like our utilities, our credit card bills, and many other bills online. And in the BSP, we see that this trend is increasing year on year in terms of the number of digital payments being made relative to cash transactions. So a lot of our needs are already met by existing solutions. However, more can be done on the payment side to make it easier and cheaper for us to initiate payments. So this last use case on digital payments innovation would enable additional functionalities through Open Finance. We normally think of payments as something fairly simple, where I initiate a payment and the receiver gets paid. And there are already existing arrangements within the market that do these right now. So things like automatic billing, auto debiting of accounts for payments, etc. However, managing all of these different payment channels and paying with different accounts can be fairly tedious or cumbersome. So with Open Finance, managing your scheduled payments can be made more seamless, and it can be made easier by enabling the setting of various payment parameters for specific bills that we regularly pay. So while these may not necessarily be something new, the experience that Open Finance brings will improve this vastly for all of consumers. So creating more customized schedules and having an easy platform with which to manage all of these. So now, with regards to the hackathon itself, we have the summary of the schedule or the timeline of activities, and we'll be going through these one by one. So the registration is from 18 June to 9 July 2024. The registration link is shown on the screen right now. And the participants who registered will be notified via email whether they have been accepted or not through hackathon@openfinanceph.org. With regards to the next event, which is the opening ceremony, this will be happening on 15 July 2024 from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. So teams accepted will be invited to the virtual opening ceremony of the hackathon. And it's also on this day that access to the API sandbox will be granted. This also signifies the start date of the hackathon proper. The hackathon itself will span from July 15 to July 26, and any kind of queries or technical concerns may be directed to the same email mentioned before, which is at hackathon@openfinanceph.org. After the submissions, the first round of judging will happen from 29 to 31 July 2024. So this will be conducted by the BSP using the same rubric as what will be used on the demo day. So this first round of judging will determine the top 6 teams to be invited to the demo day, which will happen on the BSP grounds. And this event, the demo day, will happen on August 7, 2024. Apologies for this, but this is 1:30 to 4 p.m. We will be emailing the accepted participants um, after the first round of judging. So only the top 6 teams will be pitching to an esteemed judging panel comprised of representatives from both the public and the private sector. Now, in terms of the hackathon resources, so this would be the API sandbox. I'll hand it over to Hugh from Ozone API.
Thank you, Evan. So yeah, I will just briefly talk about the tools that will be available for the teams that enter the hackathon. So as part of the hackathon, we're making available a platform that effectively allows any of the teams to build real working applications to demonstrate the use cases and the ideas that they want to bring to life. That takes the form of a model bank. So essentially, a model bank with a set of accounts that you'll be allocated. So lifelike accounts with rich synthetic data, just as if you were connecting to a real bank and real bank accounts that will allow you to build and test your ideas and your applications. The model bank sits behind a full suite of open banking APIs, a rich set of functionality around account information and payment initiation. So all of the capabilities to support the different areas of use case focus that Evan just talked about. So all of the teams will be given access to the model bank, and this will give them everything they need to build their applications and their demos and to bring it to life as part of their submission. Alongside the model bank, there's a rich developer portal, which effectively has all of the information and resources you need to understand how to connect to and build within the model bank. So it's been designed to be pretty self-sufficient and do it yourself. Within there's all of the API documentation that you'll require, a series of video guides as well to help you with the step-by-step walkthrough of everything that you need to do to be able to connect to and build in the developer portal and to the model bank. So it's a rich set of resources, including a whole series of sample code and walkthroughs of exactly how it works. But alongside this as well, there will be a help desk. So again, for any questions that aren't answered through the resources in there, or if there's anything that doesn't make sense, the hackathon help desk will be there throughout this period to respond to any questions. And just a short word about the environment. So this platform is already used at scale around the world. So this same platform is operating as the model bank, the national model bank and reference implementation for open banking and open finance in a number of different markets, and has been used at significant scale within those markets, as well as for a number of hackathons such as this with a really broad scope. So hopefully everything that you need there to build and bring to life your ideas is at your fingertips. But if there are any questions at the end of this session, we can take questions, but also the help desk is there to respond to any questions that you've got. So Evan, I'll pass back to you.
Okay, thank you, Hugh. So I'm sure you'll have more questions about the model bank once you guys have access to it. And yeah, as you mentioned, the help desk will definitely be open to answer any of your queries on it. Now, moving on to the evaluation criteria for the hackathon. So there are four criteria for this particular event, or for that we will be using for grading or judging the submissions. So the first part is the problem statement. And on this section, we'll be looking at the clarity and understanding more on the problem statement that you are developing for, as well as the innovation and originality of your solution, and how this addresses or how this would impact the financial inclusion goals of the BSP. The next section is the operational and technical feasibility. So this would look at how it's implemented, how feasible is this, is it something that can be scaled? It will also look at the completeness and usability of your proof of concept. So what are the necessary features that demonstrate the functionality? What is the user experience like, etc. And lastly, it would look at the resource utilization. So how efficiently was the model bank used for this particular proof of concept? The next two criteria involve the relevance to the market. So is there a need for this particular product? Is the total addressable market clearly defined? And is this something that can grow? As well as the business model robustness. So is the value proposition there? And whether there's an advantage to using this product versus other existing solutions in the market. And lastly, this would be focusing on the quality of the POC. So presentation and demonstration of both the submission, and if you're presenting in person and demo day, also the delivery of your presentation, as well as the future development portal. So is there a potential for a full-scale implementation on this, and how it can be transitioned into something that can be productized? So to summarize, there are four categories, each with a weight of 25%. They will all amount to 100%. So note that we mentioned that judging will be happening in the first round of judging to determine the participants who will be attending demo day. And those who get to demo day, they will also be judged by an esteemed panel. Both instances of judging will be using the same set of rubric. With that, we can move on to the last section, which is prizes for this event. So for the winning team, you will win a trip to the Singapore FinTech Festival that includes an economy class fare, lodging for 3 nights, and delegate passes sponsored by the IFC. For the top 6 teams, you will be given a certificate of recognition and gift certificates sponsored as well by the IFC. And for all participants, you will be given a digital certificate of participation. And with that, the presentation ends here, and we can probably open the floor to questions.
Thanks a lot, Evan, for that comprehensive run through of the hackathon and all the various details. So I'm just taking a look at the Q&A section. We have a question from Zenon, and his question is, who are qualified to participate?
Thank you for that, Sagar. So anyone applying as representatives of their company can apply. So the application is very open, so long as you're from a registered institution. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a BSP regulated institution. You can come from another industry, could be tech, could be consulting, etc. But essentially, application is open to all. However, the BSP will be screening applicants, and your team will be contacted should you be accepted into the event.
Thanks, Evan. Moving on to the next question. This is from Ulay Alfred. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So his question is, though this is a proof of concept, do we need to publish in public after building in the model bank?
So right now, we have no plans of having you publish anything. Or whatever proof of concept that you come up with, the details of what you need to submit can be found in the homepage of the hackathon in the welcome deck. So if I'm not mistaken, this is a document describing your proof of concept and the problem statement that you're trying to address, and a video demonstration of your proof of concept. In terms of, like, let's say, the actual code, we won't be requiring that, and we won't also be requiring you to publish it.
Thanks, Evan. The next question is from Angela, and Angela's question, and this can be taken by both Evan as well as Hugh, is, are we expected to expand or extend on the Model Bank app, or to build a separate app that uses the Model Bank's API?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in and take this one. Yeah, so the expectation is to build on the model bank to deliver an application that could be useful to a consumer or an SME. So it's not extending the model bank, it's building an app as if you were a third party to show how, for example, account information could be used to enable access to credit for micro SMEs, as one of the use cases that Evan talked about, or to demonstrate how variable recurring payments could enable digital payment experiences. There's many different use cases that could be feasible, but it's demonstrating how access to bank accounts can be used to deliver these propositions. And again, we've seen in many markets around the world, actually some of the biggest users of access to other banks are the banks themselves. Banks leveraging this access to build new payment propositions, new financial management propositions to support their lending efforts. So yes, it's about building apps on the model bank rather than extending the model bank, if that makes sense.
Thanks a lot, Hugh. We have another question from Xenon. His question is, are there waivers on the proof of concept? Who owns the proof of concept? And is there an agreement for registration, especially on intellectual property?
So at this point, sorry.
I was just going to say, Evan, I'm sure we'll talk about the registration process in a moment, but I mean, the philosophy here is if a team is submitting an idea, that idea is their intellectual property. This is the way these sorts of we've run these hackathons in a number of different markets around the world, and I think linking to an earlier question, of course, companies, if they've got a great idea and want to submit, I'm sure the team would be willing to provide some reassurance around how their idea can be protected if they don't want things to be published to the outside world. Sometimes winners do want people to see how fantastic their idea was, but yeah, the model bank is purely providing access to a model bank with accounts with synthetic data behind a set of APIs that are in line with a global standard. Anything the teams build on that's the ideas and the intellectual property of the teams. But Evan, I'm not sure if you want to say anything about the actual sign-up process.
Yes. So yeah, thank you for clarifying, Hugh. So yeah, as you mentioned, all intellectual property would of course belong to the participants. With regards to the registration process, um, there's no uh, there's no waiver whatsoever that participants will be signing. However, we would just be looking to get the basic team information, and we would just be using that for correspondence within the hackathon event. Yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot, Evan and Hugh. The next question is from Julia. Her question is, are the participants expected to work only on these three use cases, or is it okay to work on other problems? For example, would it be okay to work on an in-house KYC system?
So from our perspective, we'd like for participants to build on these three use cases because we find that these use cases may potentially have the most impact in the market. But of course, on our end, if this is something you'd like to use as an opportunity to explore for KYC use, why not? But as previously mentioned, we are evaluating for those three use cases.
Thanks, Evan. The next question is from Poi. The question is, which, this Hugh might be for you, which front-end framework does the model bank use? Does it use the same framework for mobile as well as for web?
Yeah, I'll take that one, and I'll perhaps ask Raj to jump in and provide any additional clarifications if they're necessary. So within the model bank, you can use the APIs to access the account information or to initiate payments, and it leverages a sort of consent and security model, which is based around global best practice using FAPI. And there's a defined approach to consent. Now, within that, there's a authentication screen that's mimicking the bank's the redirection to a bank's internet banking application, where the customer would go through their strong customer authentication and authorization before the consent journey continues. So the model bank enables you to demonstrate that consent experience that would happen within the bank's digital channel. But again, you can build applications, whether it's web, or whether you're looking to develop an app to interact with the model bank. All of that works. But Raj, I'll perhaps ask, are there any additional points you wanted to add on to clarify further?
I think you got most of it. So the front end is limited to the consent screens for the participants, and it will be the same framework for both your mobile and web journeys.
Thanks, Hugh, and thanks, Raj. The next question is from James. His question is, what is the target focus of the output? Open finance is a large area, and therefore is it safe to assume that this is MSME focused?
So the focus, I think, would depend on what your idea and what problem you want to solve. The three use cases that we've presented are next generation financial management, reducing barriers to MSME lending, and digital payments innovation. These use cases can be applied within an MSME context, but they can also be applied to a more consumer-focused context. So the target focus and the problem that you're trying to solve is up to the individual teams. And so long as they fall within these three priority use cases, then I think your proof of concept should be fine for submission.
Thanks, Evan. And if I could just add on, if we go back to the rubric that was presented and which you would be able to access online as well, a major focus of this initiative is really around financial inclusion. So POCs that address a financial inclusion related problem would of course have a greater leg up than a POC that is not targeting financial inclusion in some way. I'll move on to the next question, which is from Mark. And Hugh, this might be a question for you and Raj. On the POC, can we integrate our company's existing services together with the model bank to make a more comprehensive output?
A very simple answer is yes. But again, Raj, I'm not sure if there are any other points that you wanted to draw out.
Yes is the right answer. It depends on what POC or what you're building. The model bank exposes data via APIs, and you can use that APIs in any way and merge it with your company's services and make whatever product you want to make.
Thanks, Raj. We have a follow-up question from Xenon, which is, will the POC be reviewed by the BSP alone, and will it not be shared with other players should the team push through to market?
So with this, the POC, so we mentioned 2 rounds of judging. The first round of judging will be reviewed by BSP alone. However, should your team be invited to present your POC during the demo day, which will happen in BSP, to a panel of BSP judges, then it will be shared, of course, with the other players, because it would only be shared to those who are essentially attending demo day, and it would also be shared to the judges who will be grading your POC to determine the winner. But with other than during the demo day, we do not have any plans at the moment to publish any of the submissions from participants. But yes, the first stage of review will be done by the PSP, and then the teams will be presenting to a panel of judges as well as other invited participants to the demo day. So this would only be the top 6 teams.
Thanks, Evan. I think that's the questions we have so far. We still have around 20 minutes left in this session, so if there are any additional questions from the attendees, please feel free to put them in. We'll be around for a few more minutes then. Evan, while we wait for a few more questions, maybe we could also just touch upon what access to the the welcome deck and the registration. Where can participants go to get that?
Sure.
I see it's already there on the screen, but yeah.
Yes. So someone sent in a question, so I'll just quickly answer that, then demo
Sure.
the rest of the resources. So Terrell C asks, would we get a demerit if we focus on a particular MSME sector? So no, I don't think there would be any demerits for that, so long as it answers the so long as it falls in any of the 3 use cases. So the use cases can really span any industry. It can span any sector, and it really depends on you on what problem you're trying to solve with your particular proof of concept and how you're planning to solve it. So you may refer to the rubric on the specifics on how we'll be grading your POCs. So another question from Al. So Al asks, do team members have to be in the same company? So on our end, we're okay with participants forming cross-institutional teams. This is encouraged. And I guess a follow-up question to that, for cross-institutional teams, we would suggest that they register as a single team. So yes, you can register as a single team. Yes. Sorry, just to repeat myself there. So, I guess maybe another thing to add is each institution, if you'd like to have more than one team join also, you may do so. So you can have multiple teams from one institution. You may have multiple cross-institutional teams, so multiple people from different institutions forming teams as well. Yeah. So while waiting for additional questions, I'll just be bringing up the additional resources. So give me a moment. So shown in the previous set of slides, or in the last slide, our landing page for the hackathon is this page that I'm sharing to you right now. So it's on the BSP website. All of the announcements and necessary materials can be found on this link. So that is, yeah, that was what was shown in the last slide. In terms of the resources available to you on this particular page, we have the welcome deck. So you may click this particular link to bring up the welcome deck, and this contains all of the necessary information that you will need for the hackathon. So it delves into much more detail than what we've discussed today. So it details the use cases, the hackathon process, etc. We also have the schedule of activities here, and essentially the registration guidelines as well. So don't forget that registration is now open and will end on July 9, 2024. So interested teams may also register through the link here within the BSP website.
Thanks a lot, Evan. We've had a couple of questions come in, so maybe we can move there now. There's a question from James. Can necessary pre-patent protections be accomplished through mutual NDAs for submissions? So I'm not sure if this is a question for us, James. If the participants of the team want to, execute a NDA amongst themselves, you're very welcome to do so. But neither the BSP or the IFC, will be signing any NDAs. As I think Evan already mentioned, the submissions that you will be providing will be first reviewed by the BSP, and then if selected for the demo day, 6 teams will then be presented to a panel of distinguished judges who will be senior experts from different sectors of the banking and financial services sector. So there won't be any NDAs that either BSP or IFC will be signing. There's another question from Jaime, which is about staffing the team. So could the team be comprised of the bank's FTEs together with a front-end fintech partner? I'm assuming FTE means full-time equivalents or staff. And so Jaime, as we just covered, yes, you can have composition of different members in your team. Okay, there's one more question from John of BPI. If you decide to pursue further development of the project, whether with the POC from our team or collaborating with other participating teams post hackathon, what are the terms and conditions that will guide our ongoing participation? So John, that is completely left up to you. That is not an area where the BSP or the IFC will be, involved in. If you decide to pursue further development, that would be great. And that is actually just referring back to the rubric that Evan took us through. The viability of the POC is definitely going to be a criteria on which teams will be judged. So if you do decide to go forward with the POC, I think that's a great validation of your POC. And how you decide to collaborate with other teams is also completely up to you and to the teams. Okay, I don't see any further questions, Evan.
Yeah. So with that, I think we can probably end here. But just I guess as a last reminder,
Yeah.
for any kind of clarifications or concerns, you can reach out to us at hackathon@openfinanceph.org. And you can also find the hackathon landing page with what's being shown in the screen right now. So that's bit.ly/OFPH-2024 hackathon, or you may scan the QR code for your reference. Lastly, we will also be uploading a recording of this session to the hackathon's homepage for those who are unable to attend this webinar. So if you have any colleagues who wish for additional clarifications, we will be updating the page to include a recording to this, and you may share it with them as well. So last reminders is registration is currently ongoing. Please visit this page to find the registration link. And do note that registrations will end on July 9. So with that, I think we can probably end this session here. And thank you for everyone for attending.
Thanks, everyone.